Hey, everybody, on this video, thank you for stopping by. I've got TJ with Resourcing Now. It's a ministry that reaches into Central America and some other like Caribbean islands and so forth. TJ is taking the gospel of Jesus Christ across borders with material that's much needed, that's not readily available to many ministries, churches, and so forth in these areas. So he's a massive blessing. My wife and I in our ministry is actually a recipient of his material. So I just wanted to share with you about how powerful this ministry is and how much it is needed. Thank you. Stay tuned. All right, thank you everybody for joining this video here. I've got TJ Hankins here, and he's going to introduce himself and share with you, but he's got a ministry that he's reaching out into Central America and other Caribbean islands and going into South America and so forth. It's called Resourcing Now, and I'm going to let him share more with you about that. Hello, TJ.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Great. I assume you're doing good up there in Iowa right now.
Yeah, we're getting a little rain today this week, so that's a big blessing for the farmers, and all is well. Thank you.
Yep, and see, I'm a fellow Iowa boy here, so anyway, I can the summers are very humid and hot, and so I can kind of I understand what TJ's going through, the preparation of the summer then in Iowa. Hey, TJ, if you don't mind, just kind of share with everybody kind of what you're doing there as far as in Christian material.
Yeah, well, we ship and distribute Christian literature by container throughout Central America, and like you said, into the Caribbean, a little bit into South America. Those are my target areas, and so we work with existing networks, churches, denominations that are in country. We primarily ship to Guatemala. We have a warehouse there, and from there we get the literature as far and wide as we can go, and it's Christian literature. It includes Bibles, Sunday school material, tracts, Bible portions. It can be posters, a little bit of audio, video material. It's whatever. And we get it via donation for the most part. And then we try to get that out to as many people who have need and who will use it.
Yeah. And, I will share everybody that I'm a participant of his resources. So I don't even remember how you and I met, but it's probably it was obviously pre-pandemic. It wasn't, I believe, in 2019 that we met. And then I met you in Guatemala to pick up some material. What I'm trying to do is bring awareness to global missions. And I think what's really important is missions is beyond going to the jungle and preaching the gospel and building a house and passing out some medicine. Missions is so widely versed as far as in what people are doing for missions. And that's really one of the important reasons why I'm having these Zoom calls, to make people aware that, you may say, well, I don't want to go to a jungle. That's not what it's about. It's about finding your niche and fulfilling your niche and fulfilling that for Jesus Christ in the mission field. Now, you were a missionary as well. Am I correct, in Guatemala, or you spent some time in mission work here?
Yeah, I was a youth pastor for 25 years or so up in Iowa and Kansas. And in 2009, my family and I moved to Guatemala to do youth ministry and to teach Bible to youth in Guatemala City. And we were just there for 2 years, 2009 to 11, and then we returned to the States.
Okay. Now, obviously I'm going to ask you this question because, it would probably be on a lot of people's minds. How did you even get involved in this? How did you even start, thinking, hey, how did you even think in your mind, I'm just going to start shipping Christian material around the world, or, down into Central America? How did this even happen?
Yeah. Well, as a youth pastor, I worked with a ministry called Love Packages, which is in Southern Illinois, and they collect Christian literature from all over the states, different publishers, excess material, unwanted material, all Christian literature, and then they ship that by container around the world. And so we had been bringing teams down to work with them and really believed in what they were doing. And so when I went to Guatemala, I went there as a teacher. But what I saw firsthand was Sunday school teachers, Guatemalan Sunday school teachers working in the church that had no Sunday school material, and we met evangelists that had no resources to distribute, to hand out, and even believers without Bibles and pastors without tools to study, and so we saw that need, and it's one of those things where it's always been there, but we live in such abundance in the States that we just don't really even comprehend the need in other locations and other countries. And so we were exposed firsthand. And so I reached back to the Ministry of Love Packages, and I contacted them, and I just say, hey, I know most of what you do is English, but is there any chance you have any Spanish material? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, once in a while we get a container. And he said they actually are getting ready to ship to Ecuador, the Spanish container that they had. And I said, well, keep me in mind, in the future, because there's a great need here. And about a week later, he called me back. He said, the people in Ecuador canceled. If you want it, this container in Guatemala, we'll send it to you.
Wow.
And not knowing anything about, international shipping and where I was going to put the container, or even, how big it was, I just said, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And the Lord worked out the details. And in September of 2010, that container arrived in a building that I was renting in Guatemala City. And that was the start of it. And
the start of it, just a step of faith,
Yeah.
You knew in your heart you had to do it. You just had to.
Right. And
it was just a step of faith.
In my opinion, it was a one and done deal. That was cool. And the material was a big blessing. I mean, we met pastors. They were coming to get some of the material, and they would just cry. They were just like, we've never seen so much literature before, and that they can use. And so we weren't in a rush to distribute it. We got it out, and our network started to grow at that point. And but then we returned to the States in 2011, and I thought, my work in Guatemala was over, but it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, you visited us here recently, and I fed you real good there at the local restaurant. I still kind of laugh how much you guys ate. I mean, you guys were like chowing down baleadas and everything. I mean, it was really a blessing to have lunch with you guys. You guys are a great group of people. And, in our little town, Copanrinas, can you imagine the Christian resource material that's available in the local stores? I mean, you're probably thinking there's probably none. And you're right. There's none. I mean, if they even get a Bible, there's one store that I can think of. It's called Cruz Bueso. They periodically get Bibles, maybe one or two. And that's what's available in our community. So when I got connected with you, it was a massive blessing. I'm going to actually throw those photos up on this Zoom call to show people the material that you blessed us with. This was absolutely amazing. And we had a pastor's conference. So I just piled everything on a table and allowed them to pick and choose what they needed. We passed out Bibles and so forth. And you had so much resources as far as like Sunday school classes, adults, children, and so forth. My wife, she said during the pandemic, that was a massive blessing to our ministry to where they couldn't even meet, as far as the church, but they were able to utilize this material and then discuss that material and so forth through like WhatsApp and things like that. So it was definitely material that it was a blessing to us. But just like I reached out to you and said, I got a new church that needs 50 Bibles. And again, people are so spoiled going to their local Christian store or jumping on their Kindle app and downloading the latest, greatest Christian book or whatever, they don't have that available. And so basically we were able to get the Bibles from you, go bless a pastor. He was so grateful, he was so grateful that we had those so quickly. And then obviously we're going to be able to get more for you. So, it's just important that people understand that here's a unique part of missions, but it is so needed, So one thing that you're like container after container after container now. How are you able to get so much material?
Yeah, Like I said, most of it comes through love packages that they work with publishing companies who print publish quarterly Sunday school material. And when that quarter is over, they obviously print more than they sell, and so they donate that to love packages with the understanding that it will leave the country and not be sold.
Okay.
And so they get a lot of that. There's just lots of people around the country who just have a heart for missions and for work overseas, and so they print the John and Romans booklets, which is just the Gospel of John and the Book of Romans, and maybe the Romans Road, evangelism tool, all in one little booklet. And we get hundreds of thousands of those. There are people who print tracts, or who will just buy tracts and Spanish books and send it to love packages, knowing that they're going overseas. And so we started to take and raise support ourselves as resourcing now to buy discipleship books and to start buying Bibles and then shipping those along with the containers. We never get enough Bibles, and so we found out that we need to start purchasing our own and shipping those, and so the Lord has provided the funding for that, and so it's just it's a teamwork of people coming together, bringing the resources, getting it to that central point at Love Packages in Illinois, and then they ship it to wherever we ask them to go. And what's amazing is Love Packages, they pay to ship it. They pay for the container to go from their door to port, wherever that might be. And then my ministry of resourcing now then raises the funds to clear that container through customs, pay any taxes or duties, importation fees, whatever it might be, and then pay to truck that to a storage facility within that country. And then we work, with the national ministries, individuals, whatever, to begin distribution.
Yeah. So obviously you're linking with, various partners, financial partners to help, because obviously this isn't, another thing that I kind of chuckle sometimes. People just think that like the gospel's for free, it costs a lot of money to run a ministry that you're running. Now, obviously I'm sure you obviously purchase Bibles to give, to like local churches and so forth. And then obviously like with missionaries such as me, we are definitely want to help participate in the purchase of those Bibles. You make those Bibles very, very reasonable for us, because I know that I can get some Bibles in country, but one, it's like a 7-hour trip to get, get there and back, or even longer. But with you, I'm able to meet with you somewhere, because obviously we meet, either in a local town in Guatemala, or you just came here last time, and they're very reasonable price. So it's a massive blessing to me as a missionary. So, I mean, more or less, you're working with missionaries, you're working with churches in country. So like in Guatemala, I know you're in kind of in Honduras. Didn't you do something at Roatan as well?
Yeah. We have a Honduran lady that we actually support through our ministry, who works in the public schools as a Bible teacher. She travels throughout the schools, and so we've been providing her the Action Bibles, and then her husband coaches basketball teams on the island, and so we started bringing basketball teams down there.
Wow, cool.
And then we were bringing literature from our warehouse in Guatemala City, driving it all the way to La Ceiba, sticking it on a barge, and sending it to the island, and then the basketball teams distributed. And so it's been a neat kind of I want to call it a side ministry, but our focus is literature, but we started to do a little bit with the basketball teams and helping in Roatan, and who wouldn't want to go to Roatan anyway? And so it's a great blessing to be able to do that and provide material for the island.
Now, did I catch that right? You're saying a Bible teacher in the school system. Is this like the public school system?
Yeah. And I don't know how it changes or what, but really the laws are set up in some Central America countries where they're supposed to teach a values curriculum.
Yeah.
And so what she has done is she's come in there and says, I will teach the values curriculum at the various schools, because the teachers in place there don't have the time, experience, or the resources to do that. So she just makes herself available, and they're happy to let her come in. So she travels to all the schools and takes those Action Bibles, and she says, well, we're going to teach out of these Action Bibles our values curriculum.
Wow.
And they're all for it. So, it's kind of blesses the teachers because they get a chance to sneak out of the classroom, and she comes in and captivates them with these storybooks. And
Yeah.
obviously this last year or so hasn't gone too well with getting in public schools, but some of the private schools have opened up in
Yeah.
Roatan, and so now she's teaching that. In fact, the Ministry of Education, since pandemic started, decided to ask her just to record her teaching the stories, and then they'll send it out online to the students and display it on the television station on the island. So she's been
Yeah.
doing that as well. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, I'm just kind of thinking here in the States, she'd be hitting the nearest court system, being
Yeah.
sued, and here, Honduras is embracing the gospel of Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, encouraging the gospel of Jesus Christ to be ministered into the school systems. That is an awesome testimony. And we're a recipient of those action Bibles. Nancy, my wife, she just loves them. She is so excited to be able to utilize those for our ministry. The illustrations and so forth, they're kind of like in a comic form, so to speak. And like
Right.
TJ told me that even young adults take great interest in them as well. So they're not necessarily just for kids, but even young adults even embrace these and enjoy reading them. So, as far as, you've been doing this for many years now. I mean, what is some of the major impacts that you have seen as a result of what you're doing?
Yeah. What's really been neat is seeing, the Sunday school programs actually taking off, because now they have material and to use. And so that's been one big thing. And as far as area of just evangelism, I see a lot of the tracts and the John and Romans booklets, and obviously the Bibles that, they're just seeds. And so now we're providing seeds for the sowers to go out and just to scatter the word. And, we have some brothers and some ministry partners in Guatemala. They take the John and Romans booklets, they hit the bus stations, they hit the parks.
Wow.
And, the one lady, she says, we have some gentlemen who'll just get on the bus. They'll hand everybody a John and Romans booklet, and it's a bus that's going, down the road a ways, and they'll just go stand up in the front of the bus and say, all right, turn to page 4
Wow.
if you want. And they'll just start reading through the booklet and sharing the gospel. And, it's a captive audience in that sense. And so they just have been distributing, tens of thousands of them. And we have some Guatemala pastors that are bringing a lot of the material into southern Mexico, Chiapas and stuff, and getting into some areas even in Chiapas that are not open at all to the gospel, very hostile towards that. And they're doing a lot of work in that way. And so it just, I wish we could see the individual people. There's just too much material for us to do the piece by piece. And so the Lord has just provided major networks throughout Guatemala, now into Honduras, and we have some people in El Salvador that they take the material and they go. We started shipping directly into Belize, which is mostly English, but we do get some Spanish. We're into Panama now. We have people in Nicaragua requesting material, so hopefully we can drive some down there. And then maybe down the road, ship directly into a few of these other countries like Honduras and Nicaragua, as opposed to coming, through our warehouse in Guatemala.
Amen. I share with my mom because she gives to our ministry, and she just kind of thought, well, I'm just helping my son. Never really gave any thought to it. And I said, Mom, just think, when you go to heaven, I kind of like to think this way. When you go to heaven, you're going to meet people that, came to Christ as a result of your seed, of you giving. And she never thought of that way. She started crying on the phone. And it really touched me that, it meant a lot to her that she actually thought that. So I just kind of think people are going to be coming up to you in heaven saying, hey, TJ, how you doing? You'd be like, well, who are you? And I mean, just the result of your work,
Right.
just the cool stories of, like you said, they're passing out the tracts and the books of John and so forth on the buses and say, okay, now we're going to start, and they just start ministering to the people, but they're using the material that you're providing that they could never have gotten. So it's
and I appreciate
awesome.
that. Yeah. And that's humbling to hear that. And we give all the praise to God. I mean, I look at myself as I'm just the mailman. and just being obedient to what the Lord has for me to do. And when I say we, I talk to my wife, the people who help me out, some of the supporters. Just laugh because I've driven for thousands and thousands of kilometers across Central America, and I really can't speak Spanish. And sometimes I'm out there, on my own driving, 500 miles or 500 kilometers to destinations and the Lord just always provides, and the Lord's grace is always enough to get us where we need to be and to help through every situation. And, I truly believe just that, um, a couple of things, with the material that we've been able to distribute, and specifically the material the love packages gets out, that every second of every day from now until the Lord returns, someone is reading that material.
Yeah. Amen.
And I don't say that speculatively or anything. I really believe it to be true. And not just that, is that every Bible and every book represents a person, represents a life, and it's ultimately going to get to where it needs to be. And I know people throw tracts away and they get whatever, but man, one of the exciting stories I've shared is a pastor showed up at our distribution site once, and he looked around and he was just amazed at all the material that was there. And we asked if we could help him, and he kind of just shyly, really humbly said, "Well, I'm really looking for a Bible."
Mhm.
And he says that if I could be so bold, I say I'm looking for a black leather, large print, New King James Version study Bible.
Mhm.
And people looked around and didn't find anything. And my son was with me on this distribution. He said, my son said, wait a minute. I think there's one box we haven't opened up yet of Bibles. And he went and pulled it out. And it was just kind of a generic box full of material. And he set it down in front of the pastor. He got out his knife. He cut the box open. And on the very top of the box
Wow.
was a black leather bound, large print New King James Study Bible.
Wow.
And it was just, the Lord put it there. The Lord knew the moment it would be needed, and the person showed up for it. And when, double blessing for me is to see that, but then to see my son experience that and have the blessing of picking up that Bible and handing it to this pastor and saying, it's yours, it's free. And watching the pastor literally cry and dance and get on his motorcycle and speed away. It's great that the Lord gives us little windows into some of these special stories, and a lot of it we don't see because it just goes. But the Lord knows the encouragement we need and the stories that we can share when we see those things happen. So
Yeah. It kind of brings back memories. My pastor went to Nicaragua. I don't remember the name of the river that separates Nicaragua and Honduras, but he basically kind of like took plane after plane and then got on trucks and eventually got to this village in the middle of nowhere. And they said, you must be from God because you're the only white man that's ever been back here. And they somehow got a connection to go there, and they went there and they had a pastors conference and they passed out Bibles. And the next day, some of the pastors didn't bring back Bibles, and they're like, why didn't you bring your Bible? And they said that they were fearful of losing their Bible, so they hid it in the jungle. I mean, it's just, people don't understand. And then we take so for granted that the material that's readily available to us, like many gringos, Americans, is so readily available that is not available to people around the world. And we are so spoiled. I showed my pastor here recently, I showed him like all the Kindle books that I've been able to read, all the resource material that I have for my Bible app. And it's not available. It's not available to them. So you are truly a blessing. And I can say that from the bottom of my heart because of being a missionary and recipient of the work that you're doing. I just believe that you're a massive blessing to so many people.
yeah, well, it's a privilege, and to be a part of it, like I said, it's humbling. And this past Friday, I don't know if I mentioned it here with you, because I talk about it quite a bit, but this last Friday, our 43rd container left from Love Packages, and this one is going directly into Guatemala again, and
Wow.
and it's 20-ton containers. Each container averages pretty close up to up to 1 million pieces of literature,
Wow.
and so you just do the numbers, and it's amazing. Um, and so yeah,
But I mean,
we're gonna
obviously,
get you some. So
it's only going to grow more,
yeah,
it's just going to only grow more. Because I mean, the more and more people come in contact with you or become aware of who you are and what you do, obviously, there's a need. You're just going to come across, pretty much any missionary that has the need for your ministry. So, and then obviously churches and so forth that you come in contact with. So, well, TJ, it was awesome talking to you. I really greatly appreciate you jumping on this Zoom call. It's an honor to have you here. It was just great to feature what you're doing for the kingdom of God. So, really enjoyed the talk.
thanks so much, Sean.
Okay. God bless you, brother. Bye-bye.